Hello everyone, this is video 2 for shortcuts this week. Price list will go out 9 p.m. this Wednesday, the 2nd of July, 9 p.m. Sydney time. If you would like to be on the price list, drop me an email, shortcutsrecordsaus@gmail.com. This is the classic rock list, and man does it live up to its billing tonight. I am going to kick off with this record. Oh, firstly, I'm just going to say thank you to all of you who came to my record fair in Manly on Sunday yesterday. It was a huge success. I got to meet some of you again. Those of you who live in the Northern Beaches, so thank you so much. Right, so what do we got here? Let's start with this. This is the Japanese first press of Jimi Hendrix's Electric Ladyland. With help from our friends and passengers, including, some of you might not know this record features Buddy Miles on drums on Rainy Day and Still Raining, which Buddy Miles became the drummer for the band of Gypsies. On Voodoo Child, you have Steve Winwood on organ, and on Long Hot Summer Night on piano, you have Al Cooper, who played with on Like a Rolling Stone with Bob Dylan, for instance. What a record! Now, this is my excuse to show you one of my prized possessions. I'm not really into signed records, and I think it's often a little bit kind of cheesy when the signed record is not in your name. So this is signed to Mark, so that's terrible, but it is signed by, and I don't know if you're going to be able to make this out because it's kind of hard. It's actually signed by Noel Redding in two places. It's signed there and it's signed there. To Mark, good luck, Noel Redding. So the person I bought this from showed me the the train ticket and the plane ticket and the story behind when Mark went to LA and caught up with Noel Redding. Noel Redding probably being, one of the most famous Irish musicians because of his history with Jimi Hendrix. Now, this is the first time I've ever had the Japanese first press of Electric Ladyland. So, have a look at that. That is the booklet, and the booklet includes, for the first time I've ever seen them, English lyrics on this kind of trifold, and then it has this kind of history of the band. This kind of, I don't know how you would describe it. It's all of the machinations to who played what and by when, and where all the links are in the history of Mr. Hendrix. It's a pretty beautiful thing. On the red Polydor label, Jimi Hendrix Electric Ladyland, Japanese pressing, and I'm almost convinced this is the first pressing, but I am going to have to check it all for you by a Wednesday. How wonderful is that? I also have two Led Zeppelin records that I had. I had pretty much half a box of Led Zeppelin records. There were a couple that I set aside that I didn't want to put in the fair that I have for you folks. So I'm just going to show you this. So the first is the Japanese first press of House of the Holy with the double obi intact. House of the Holy being one of my favorite Zeppelin records. It also, these kids who were photographed for this is Giant's Causeway, which is in Northern Ireland, pretty close to where I was born and grew up. You know, they were the biggest band in the world by this point. They could have done whatever they wanted, but they made, you know, tribal grooves like Do Your Maker. They did funk like the grunge. They did grandeur on a massive scale, like The Song Remains the Same. They did The Ocean. They did, you know, one of the most sampled, you know, tracks of all time, and yet they were so restless. It was pretty remarkable. The Japanese first press of Zeppelin's Houses of the Holy. I don't know. I'm interested. How many of you have that as your favorite Zeppelin record? I feel like its legacy has increased. I still don't think it's the favorite. I think this is. This is, and I have to remind myself. Let me just pull back the sticker here, because I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have to open it to find out. This is Led Zeppelin 2. I'm pretty sure it has the poster. I had one in the crates at the fair. It does, thank God. That had the poster, and this one does as well. So for those of you who haven't seen the poster that came with the Japanese press of Led Zeppelin 2, you're in for a treat, because this is what it looks like. It has the band in silhouette in Atlantic green. Led Zeppelin 2. Even my missus likes that poster, and she's pretty picky. It's really cool. That's complete with OB, inserts, poster, and perfect vinyl. Led Zeppelin 2. I guess 1969. The album that was recorded on the fly as they were touring and trying to make their way across, you know, scattergun tours across the US and UK. I suppose it's a band reveling in the chaos and the ferocious drive of their manager to be special. And so you've got Whole Lot of Love, you've got Ramble On. I guess, I don't know, I'll be interested to hear who has Led Zeppelin 2 as their favourite Led Zeppelin record. So there you have two pristine, perfect Led Zeppelin Japanese copies with OBs and posters and things. How cool is that? Alright, this next one I like a lot as well. This is the special edition, limited edition, trifold Elton John release of Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. Now you might notice this sticker, and it says limited edition souvenir issue to mark Australian retail sales of $3 million. Not the number of copies sold, but the amount of money made. And it's supposed to be a removable sticker, but thankfully this person didn't remove it. And the reason it was a special edition was it was released in yellow vinyl. Goodbye Yellow Brick Road in yellow vinyl, which features my favourite Elton John song, that is Benny and the Jets. And so there you have a trifold Australian special edition of Goodbye Yellow Brick Road in yellow vinyl. I'm quite tickled by that. I think that's pretty cool. Again, let me know what you guys think. Is the thing about these double albums that are kind of legacy defining, like Physical Graffiti, like Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, like Electric Ladyland, is the sheer volume of music, and can these artists really maintain what they do over, you know, 4 sides of vinyl? I find myself with these types of records dipping into side 2, side 3, side 4, because side 1 is the one that I've typically, you know, enjoyed the most over the years, and so I find myself going back to some of the later sides, and you know, because these artists were so special, they knew what they were doing in terms of carving out the tracks to fit certain things. Some of these sides have a certain mood and a certain feel. I think that's what adds to them. Back in the CD age, when you were sitting down to Electric Ladyland over an hour of music, it felt a lot. It felt claustrophobic and a challenge. Whereas, 18 minutes or 19 minutes of squalling massive Hendrix, or 4 classics in a row from Elton John on side 3 of Goodbye Yellow Brick Road just works. And then every so often you do consume the lot, and you might think how special. The beauty of House of the Holy and Led Zeppelin 2 is that in that age of vinyl, you had 40 minutes and you gotta make it count. 8 songs, 9 in the case of Led Zeppelin 2. I think it's 9. You're in and out. You've got to deliver. It just works. Those records are great. And I think this is another example of that. I've got another sprawling double album to come in a second. But this is the original mobile fidelity pressing of Abbey Road from the record released 1969. The mobile fidelity first press of Abbey Road in 1981. Abbey Road being the Beatles' final recorded album, a polished, somewhat bittersweet farewell, which I think blended innovation and elegance equally. It was a beautiful way to go. The end was the end, as it turned out. Well, what a way to go. And even my kids can name songs from Abbey Road, before they were when they were 5 or 6 years of age, because it is so ubiquitously played in this house. Here Comes the Sun, the medley on side 2. There's the mobile fidelity inners. Now, I have had quite a few Abbey Roads over the years. I have an Abbey Road mobile fidelity in my case right now. What is it about the mobile fidelity in this case? Now, there are a lot of controversy of what was called the Smiley effect of mobile fidelity in the 80s, the EQ that suggested that the bass was boosted and other things were messed around. The fact of it is, these things were recorded, half-sprite mastered. They really did pour over them. They tried to enhance the fidelity. They used Japanese vinyl called super vinyl. It's very quiet, very pure. There's a lot to love, and so even down so you can hear the faint hum of the engineer kind of with an overlooked tape noise kind of little bit on I Want You, She's So Heavy. All of that's there. Yes, it's a very warm record, so it's got a very deep bottom end, but you know what? I like that about it. And so I'm not saying it's the best ever. I'm not saying it's this or that. I'm just saying it's great in its own way. And what a final album. What a way to go. Absolutely remarkable. I was talking earlier about how you dip in and out of these records. What about this? This is a Japanese version of the White Album that is a little bit different. So the first thing you notice is every Japanese copy I've ever seen of this has blemishes on the sleeve because of the humidity of the country it's from. This is perfect. It's from 1982. How has it survived this in this condition? And the reason is quite unusual. In 1982, the Beatles Corporation, Parlophone and others, released the Blue Box. Now, Australia had a Blue Box, the UK had a Blue Box, Holland had a Blue Box, Germany had a Blue Box. There were a lot of Blue Boxes. Japan had a Blue Box as well. And so whoever had that Blue Box from 1982 had these records nicely enclosed in that Blue Box, and at some point over the last couple of years that Blue Box was exploded and the records were sold individually. What you have here is the Japanese Blue Box release of the White Album. So because it was in the box, it is pristine. It is absolutely perfect. The pinups, the poster, everything, the sleeve, the vinyl. What an interesting artifact. So for those of you who love the White Album, or who are maybe searching for a really special analog pressing of the White Album, do I have one for you. From the Beatles Blue Box, the White Album. And in this case, it is actually white and not off-white and molded and humid, impacted by the humidity of Japan. I think that's cool. Alright, I've got a few more records to go. I have the Japanese first press on the Atlantic label of AC/DC's Flick of the Switch. So Uncertain Times 1983 was for AC/DC. They smashed the world open with Back in Black, and then it was less good for those about to rock. And Flick of the Switch is more stripped back. It was produced by the band itself. It's quite raw. I don't think it'll ever be in the top tier of AC/DC, but I think it's got its fans over the years. There's some of the tracks, Nervous Shakedown, Guns for Hire, they still remain in the set list. I wonder if they'll play any of these tracks when they come here. I suppose it's dry. The guitars are very loud. The vocals are pretty unpolished and harsh for that voice. So it's interesting. The Japanese first press are quite affordable compared to some of the other Japanese presses, and it sounds pretty awesome. This is also a Japanese first press. This is the Japanese first press of Long After Dark, the fifth album by Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. The Floridian with that Dylan-esque drawl, and birds jangle in this amazing way with the tune. So this is, I suppose, the previous record, Hard Promises, which is one of my favorites of his, is a little bit more experimental. This is more of a return to really tight melodic rock. Really nice bass lines from Howie Epstein. You Got Lucky ends up on some of his compilations of best tracks, but it's a really fine record. I don't think there is such a thing as a bad Tom Petty record. And Long After Dark, I don't know if it's his best, but it's fun, and I really like it. So there you go. I have a couple of classics to go, and then one or two that we don't know. So the couple of classics are these two. So the Japanese first press of Metal and the Japanese Elton John Tumbleweed Connection. Elton's second record, and Metal being the record that features the 23-minute behemoth that is Echoes. What a track. Absolutely astonishing. I really like the Japanese first press as well, and I'm sure I've shown you folks before. Actually, I'm not sure if it's in there, but well, it says it's got the booklet, so let me just find it. There it is. It also features Seamus, of course. So there's the little image of the band that comes with the first press and a few little bits and pieces. And then in here, or maybe it's not on this particular press. So there was a little poem that was on one of the others. Maybe I'll find it another time. Anyway, got all the good stuff. The Black Odeon press of Metal and the Japanese press of Tumbleweed Connection on the black label. Now, a couple that you won't have seen before. I don't think I've ever had these on the list. This is Having a Rave Up with the Yardbirds from 1965. Again, this is a Japanese press. What I like about this record, you got one half that's the Jeff Beck inspired kind of pop sheen, and the second half is the Eric Clapton kind of explosive kind of blues stuff. And so you've got both sides of the kind of guitar oriented coin that was the Yardbirds. And I think It's quite psyche. I've had this one on my shelf for donkey's ages. Anyway, for those of you who like the Yardbirds, you've got Rave Up with the Yardbirds. And then finally, I had to go with this because I think this is such an underrated album. This is the double LP live album from Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, Four-Way Street. This is 1971, the volatile, extremely volatile supergroup, and it's got an acoustic record and it's got this really feral electric live record as well. Interestingly, Cowgirl in the Sand, which is a legendary electric song by Neil Young, features on the acoustic side here, and the harmonies on that are really, really cool. And then on the electric, you've got Southern Man and Ohio being one of the all-time great protest songs. It's funny though, I mean, the critics at the time, if you read Christ Guy and the critics at the time, they can talk about how nice the vocals were, but that they really didn't like the kind of jammy electric excursions. I kind of think that that's part of what brings me back to this record. I think it's this weird mix of a band that we know were falling apart because of what happened and what they said, yet on the record sound so locked in and so powerful. It's a mystery. Untie that Gordian knot if you can. Alright, that's the classic rock list. Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, to the Beatles, to Zeppelin, to Hendrix, to the Yardbirds and Elton John. I told you this was and Pink Floyd, a classic rock list. Please leave a comment if you like the video. If you want to be on the price list, drop me an email, shortcutsrecordsaus@gmail.com. Thank you. Bye.